You've got it. You better stop it. Ooh. You've got it. You've got it.
This episode of the Ready State podcast is brought to you by Cock Punch Coffee.
Yeah, you heard that right. Cock Punch Coffee. So let's set the stage. I'm obsessed with coffee. You're not unobsessed with coffee yourself.
Oh, I mean, it is like the fluid of our like ability to function in life. Yes.
I mean, if there's a Dune reference in here, it is definitely the water of life.
Yes.
So what's really fun about Cock Punch Coffee is that it was created by our friend Tim Ferriss. Now, Tim Ferriss, if you don't know, podcaster extraordinaire, thinker, he created this whole universe of this kind of as a creative outlet called the world land of Cock Punch. And it's NFTs, fictional writings, a whole bunch of fun things, and this coffee. The coffee is really good, and I am
really tasty.
Very snobby. I don't know if you know this, but I actually have vacuumed out coffee.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like a regular occurrence. If we pour a bag in that we don't like we vacuum it right out.
People give us a bag, and the first time I had Cock Punch, they literally our friends and Tim were like, "Did you vacuum it out?" And I was like, "No, I didn't have to vacuum it out. This is great coffee.
It's super tasty coffee. It's roasted with the lowest carbon footprint available, and we're delighted to introduce it to you all."
The other thing is that Tim donates 100% of the proceeds to his foundation, SciSe. And the SciSe Foundation is a nonprofit focused on cutting-edge scientific research that explores widely untreatable or conditions that are considered untreatable, like treatment-resistant depression, anorexia, things like that. It's pretty amazing. And you can actually go to SciSe Foundation and check out more about that.
Yeah, to learn more. And what we love is it's coffee with a cause.
Yeah.
So we love supporting it.
Coffee with a cause. So if you want to just say Cock Punch a lot to your family, hey, what are you drinking, Cock Punch? Because that's really funny. Go to cockpunchedcoffee.com/TRS and use code TRS for 20% off your first purchase.
We are excited to welcome Carissa Bodnar to the podcast, live and in person. With over a decade of experience as a makeup artist, beauty product designer, and formulator, Carissa has traveled the world sourcing powerful ingredients to create clean formulas with skin-loving properties. Her passion for empowering individuals of all walks of life through the gift of beauty has taken her from backstage at New York Fashion Week to working with an impressive roster of high-profile clients. Thrive Cosmetics was born out of a friendship. Karissa lost her dear friend Christy to cancer at just 24 years old. Christy's compassionate and vivacious spirit inspired Karissa to establish Thrive Cosmetics, a beauty brand and philosophy that goes beyond skin deep by empowering diverse communities. Now, what I'll say is Karissa is a little bit of a different guest for us because she doesn't have necessarily an obvious connection to the health, wellness, fitness space. But that's actually how we met her. She's been a fan of the Ready State for a long time. She is an enthusiastic mover and exerciser, and
we have a lot of mutual coach friends in common.
And we have a lot of she's friends with Coach Megastrong.
The problem is, as soon as you become Thrive Cosmetics aware, you realize they have donated $124 million.
Yeah, it's insane the work they've done.
This is so interesting because how she built this is such an amazing story, and how she really was able to tap into social media, direct to consumer, building relationships. I mean, if you are an entrepreneur, you need to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, the story of her starting Thrive is truly inspiring. And the fact that they donate so much to this gigantic list of charities is just the absolute coolest. And we're just such fans of her. Huge respect.
You use their stuff. Lisa uses their stuff.
Lisa uses
Our
their
girls
stuff.
use their stuff.
Yeah.
And I have to say, everyone, real good shave. The combination of the gel cleanser,
use their stuff. I know, yeah.
and the lotion has made this. I think I've got fewer wrinkles. I think people are complimenting me on my skin tone.
You look younger. It's
hey, thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is such a cool story. And it gives us one of those reasons why we love strength conditioning and fitness and wellness, because it leads us as a common cause to talk to and meet so many extraordinary people, because we're all bound by the fact that we love to move.
Yeah, and Carissa, such a fan. She's such a boss, and I think there's so much to be learned about her amazing story, and I hope you guys all enjoy this one. Carissa, welcome to the Ready State podcast. You are only our second guest to ever be in person here in studio, so
we're doing it live.
So excited. We're live.
I am so honored. Juliet, thank you for having me. Kelly, thanks for coming.
Hey, look, to be honest, there are two people who are CEOs at the table, and one of us is not. So it makes perfect sense that I'm a +1. I'm just going to be,
You're +1.
I'm +1. I'll be +1 today.
+1, but you have a lot to contribute.
Let's
I'm
start.
with Kelly every
Yeah.
morning doing the morning hip spin up. Shameless plug for the morning hip spin up. If you have hip pain, please do it.
We tried to basically update sun salutation. Get rid of some of the yoga things, make it more athletic for people, but sun salutation is all there.
I just have one beef.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
hear it.
Every morning I hear Kelly as I'm really hobbling through this morning hip spin up, and he says, "This is easy to do while you're drinking coffee." And I say, "No, it's not."
Yeah, you're
It's
like,
not.
easy for you.
Because you don't have a camelback of coffee.
Yeah.
That's where it's attached to your
You
body.
have no idea how bendy he is. You have no idea.
I
mean, maybe you do.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't to the level that you do, and I am so in awe of what you've built, and I'm really honored to be here.
So excited. Okay, so you
Yeah.
you're here in town in person because you just finished running the Napa Half Marathon. So I'd love to hear about your preparation for that, why you're here, and then I also know that is very connected to all of the charities or some of the charities you work with. So, tell us why you're here. How did you end up in Northern California this weekend and here at our office?
So, fun story. I did not run until I was in my 20s. And I was one of the, I got in some car accidents. I had a lot of health challenges when I was a kid. And I got told by a lot of, quote, experts that I would not be a runner in my life. And at the end of college.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like because of the car accidents or because they were like, you're not a runner. Like you went in
Or
and someone
like-
checked
or-
your blood pressure and they're like, you're not a runner.
Or were they like, you're not a human?
It was, it was, I think a lot of it was just due to the car accidents. So it was, they were pretty serious car accidents. I was hospitalized for a little while after them. But I think it was what I love is that I didn't stay there. And I think that you can find any expert to tell you can't do something. And what I love about what you all do is you tell people how they can. And I, as an entrepreneur, I admire that. And as a person who doesn't want to sit in victimhood, I really admire the message that you're putting out there. And I did my first race, totally got the bug and got addicted to half marathons. Like I was totally, let's be clear, I was there for the party. Like I heard Brad Stolberg on your podcast talking about times and things. Like I know Brad through a completely different angle. Like I am so not in your world, but respect the heck out of what you do. And I was just like, I can't imagine being one of those people that like wakes up and thinks they're going to win. Like the people that wake up for a competition. And I'm like, that's incredible. I was there for the party. And then I didn't do it for about a decade. And our community of customers, we started exercising together. And then we were like, why don't we do some races together? And so the Thrive Cosmetics and Bigger Than Beauty Skincare community really got me back into running half marathons. And so what we like to do is we like to donate to our charities when we're running. And the sponsoring charity for this half marathon in Napa was the American Cancer Society. So we raised money for them, which was really fun, and ran with my crew of Jessica Minardi. I was with my friend Jamie Greenberg. There was a ton of us out there. It was fun. Really, really fun. And can I say I got my best time ever, and I'm 34.
Yes, PR.
Yeah. I just, I'm 34 years young, still a work in progress. And I got my best time ever, 1:57.
Yes, congratulations.
A lot of endurance athletes don't peak until their early 30s.
Wow.
It takes that long. So I'd say
Really?
you're right on schedule.
Can you
there.
talk about that?
Yes, a lot of athletes don't peak. No, it just takes a long time. I think, there's so many great things about you putting a date on the calendar, getting friends together, having intention. Juliet likes to say human beings really only do two things together. We eat together and we move together. And what you'll see is that if you actually apply that filter, there's a lot of community and intention and a lot of health built into that right away. But there's something about how long it takes to be actually worth a crap at doing your sport, knowing how to train, knowing how to eat, knowing how to balance a life and doing it. Oh, you're 19 and you don't have any responsibility? Must be nice. Like, go ahead and just run a business and train for something. And you really start to see that that's an interesting proposition. And the half marathon's the best distance.
So the other thing I want to comment on something you said, which is an ongoing thing that Kelly and I talk about. So thank you for noticing. But I like to, he is obviously a very good physical therapist, but I like to sort of poke fun at him and say, like, you're not really, like, you're just sort of an average physical therapist, but like what you're so good at is giving people hope or permission to use their bodies. And I think your story is really similar to a lot of people that we see and work with, which is they've been told they can't, they shouldn't, they should stop moving, they shouldn't do the things they love. And so I think Kelly's superpower is just giving people permission.
One of the things that I think is really cool, I also want to double click on, is the intentionality. You use this as an opportunity to donate to organizations that you guys value as a community. We have come to believe that sport now is more important than ever because it ends up being such an organizing thought, an organizing system, where suddenly you're talking about nutrition, you talk about sleep, you talk about, being accountable. There's a whole sort of organizing set of principles around sport. And then you just went ahead and did one valence further and said, hey, we can actually change our communities through sport, which is what we should be doing. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, what I like to do is dedicate a mile to every giving partner. Like, for example, yesterday at mile 8, like, I can't quit our giving partners. Like, that's why I'm here is the nonprofits that we work with. And at mile 8, I thought, well, this was kind of stupid. Why did I do this? Lil Jon wasn't giving me enough at that moment in my headphones. And I was like, let's go. And so I thought about the 8 causes that we support, because I started with one charity, one cause. It was cancer that we were working with. And we had a charity. It was actually University of Washington Medical that we worked with their breast cancer center. And it's now grown to over 500 charities, rooted in 8 causes. So military service members and their families, cancer, domestic abuse, and the unhoused population, and more. So what I started doing is I started counting listing off the 8 causes to myself and thinking about how remarkable that was and the resilience of all of those people. And the resilience of the people that we get to serve is what inspires me when I feel like quitting, whether it's I'm having a tough day at work or, I'm running a half marathon in the rain and it's really cold like yesterday.
You and I are bad people. That's true motivation. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to get a snack. I'm
like
jump
thinking
in the
about my
sauna.
cappuccino.
Yeah.
I thought we were doing this in the sauna, actually.
I know. If our equipment wouldn't melt, we would.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so I want to really delve more in the future of this podcast on all of your work with a variety of charities and what motivated that. But I do feel like for our listeners who don't know you and don't follow you, which, by the way, she is a great follow on Instagram. I'm just going to throw that out there, but great and fun follow on Instagram. But I'd love to sort of like begin the story of your entrepreneurship path and let everyone listening to this know that you have built like an amazing empire of a business at such a young age. Started in your apartment, but I'd just love to go all the way back, because I know you grew up on a farm, and if you could just maybe give sort of an early backstory of how you got into beauty, how you started Thrive Cosmetics, like what's the early backstory? How did you even know to start this?
I love telling this story, and I'm so proud of where I'm from. I'm from Stanwood, Washington, which is a town of about 5,000 people, and it's a highly entrepreneurial town. So even though my dad was in education and my mom had a variety of jobs, I wasn't raised by entrepreneurs, but I was raised by entrepreneurs, because if you were going to go buy anything in the town, you were going to go support your local farmer. You were going to support your local. I mean, one of my best friends, Carissa, she's the lash girl there. Like, you have your one person that you go to. You go to the same hairstylist for your entire life, and there's just all these local businesses. And so I'm so proud of coming from Stanwood, because it really ingrained in me this entrepreneurial spirit, and I feel really, really fortunate for that. And I also feel really fortunate about the way that I was raised. I wasn't raised with cable or the internet and things like that. I grew up on a farm, on a dirt road, and so I got to be incredibly creative. And I was sandwiched between a horse farm, a cow farm, a sheep farm, and we had a little bit of everything.
Camano Island, Washington.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a magical place. It's a really beautiful place in the world. And just good people. Everybody, you go to the grocery store and you're as glammed up as I am right now because and Kelly actually said he wants to come to the fair now, the Stanwood Camino Fair. It's the best Lil fair in the West. And our logo is a cow. And, and you go and like, it's a high school reunion every day. Or every time. So it's a great, I say that our local fair is like the Grammys and, because it kind of is. I grew up in a small town. Did not know anything about the beauty industry when I first started out, but really I was motivated to become a makeup artist when I was in college because you got free makeup if you worked. It's so basic. I was obsessed with makeup and the way that it made me feel, the confidence it gave me when I was in those awkward teenage years, and how makeup was really this outlet for simultaneously creativity and confidence. Like I love those two things. And then I didn't know I was a science nerd, but I totally am. And so when I was a kid, I was mixing things like I fried my hair because I used a L'Oreal Feria box that was, like kind of false advertising.
So say we all.
Yeah. And so
I fried my hair with a home perm in the 80s. It was not good.
Tragic,
Not good.
right?
Yeah.
Tragic. Yeah. So I couldn't find a sulfate-free shampoo. So I learned that spirulina was a surfactant. So I started mixing that in with shea butter and it was just like a mess what I was making in the kitchen. But I was really teaching myself cosmetic chemistry. And so then I went to community college. I'm a proud Bellevue Community College graduate and went to University of Washington, but was never really that engaged in school, if I'm being honest. Instead of studying, I was reading the cosmetic ingredient dictionary. Like that's what I wanted to be studying.
What were you studying at university?
I was studying business and communications. But I was not a great student. I took environmental science as a pass fail as my last class, and I didn't pass. Then I had to write a persuasive essay about why I should pass because I got a job. I got a job in product development at a startup called Carissa. So I just stopped going to class my last quarter. So I'm not saying that I'm not advocating for that. I don't think that's the way that you should go to school, but I do want kids to know that there's another path and you can be, I love now that there are so many programs that are applied sciences for cosmetics. But a lot of it I learned on the job, and I got to do product development when I worked for a small startup called Clarisonic that ultimately wound up selling to L'Oreal. And I had no idea what that was. When L'Oreal bought our company, I had no idea they were the number one beauty company in the world. It's like $100 billion company. I had no idea. And got mentored by some incredible people while I was there and learned product development, cosmetic chemistry.
So I read that Carol Hamilton of L'Oreal, who maybe you could tell our listeners who she is, but that she saw something in you.
Yes.
I think, and gave you like a really early vote of confidence for this path you're now on. Can you tell us that story?
Yes. Carol Hamilton. She is, so I'm short. I'm 5'2". She's about my height, and she is a absolute powerhouse. She is, do you know Anna Wintour from The Devil Wears Prada, Vogue? Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
She's like the Anna Wintour of beauty. She's a queen, and she has such a growth mindset. She's never finished, and she's also self-taught. She came up in the industry and really, she started at the beauty counter, I think, and then she just like continued to grow, and she runs major divisions within L'Oreal, and L'Oreal is the company it is because she is there, and she really mentored me. I remember sitting with her in Paris, and the idea of going, I remember when I graduated from school and people were going and they were like having their like last hurrah, and I already had my job, so I was like, well, I can't leave this amazing job that I have. And the idea of going to Paris for business seemed like something I would only see in the movies.
Yeah.
And I was scared to take a job at Nordstrom in downtown Seattle because I was scared of downtown Seattle. But when L'Oreal buys your company and they just pluck you and put you in New York and Paris, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? And Carol was such a, I remember sitting there with her in this like basically a castle in Paris. And I was like, I have officially drank the Kool-Aid of L'Oreal. I was like, this is some cool stuff. I'm eating some great chocolate croissants, pain au chocolat, all that. And she I just said, wow, like what's it like to have changed the industry the way that you have? And She just was saying, I paved the way so you could keep changing it. And I remember, like, to have someone like her say that to a 21-year-old, that's a really powerful thing to say. And then a few years later, I started Thrive Cosmetics, which is just crazy, serendipitous how it all came together. But I never thought I would start a beauty brand. I really didn't.
So, it seems like it's like set in stone. Like, what else would you do now? But I'm sure at that time you're like, couldn't even see it. So I know there's a story behind why you started Thrive Cosmetics.
Yeah.
So tell us that story.
Yes. So I was very happy traveling the world, working for L'Oreal, creating incredible products in their luxury division. I got to work with different brands like Yves Saint Laurent and their beauty, because of the way that the company was structured. I got to work on a bunch of different brand projects, SkinCeuticals, like amazing science. And I was actually in Paris, and my friend Christy, I think they had just, it was either Skype or FaceTime. It was one of those. We had a video call, and she was in Chile, and she was out there serving. She was specifically called to serve young children in education. And she called me up and she said, Carissa, they think I have cancer. And I was like, she was home on this break from Tanzania to Chile in between. And I had seen her, and she had this bruise that wouldn't go away. And we're like, it's a bruise, but we didn't know that it was a sarcoma. And so they had her come back and immediately like went into chemo, doing the whole treatment. And unfortunately, 9 months later, she passed. It was really, really challenging. She was such a light. Like, Christy was like, she was the person that just made you know that you mattered. Like when you met her, and if she was sitting here, and in a lot of ways, I do feel like she's sitting here with us today because I see her in the eyes of the people that I get to work with. And it's really interesting. Like, Christy packed so much thriving into 24 years. She was 24 years old when she passed. And that was the one thing I kept thinking of when she passed. I was like, she really lived her life to the max. She was always dancing, she was always traveling, and she was always serving others. And it was really that experience. Christy was the catalyst for me saying, God, I love what the beauty industry does for people in the means of confidence and empowerment. And I know we can be doing more to serve other people. And I think, Christy was truly that catalyst. I do want to give my parents credit. They absolutely raised me, serving and giving back to people, feeding people in soup kitchens and things like that. But the way that Christy lived, it was how she lived and how she thrived that really inspired me.
Well, so step one, L'Oreal. Step two, unsure. Step three, you just have a company. Like was that we have a lot of friends who, so one of their dear friends passes and it changes, it crystallizes.
Yep.
They get shook. They realize that there's something else. This has happened. A lot of our friends. It's a common theme. Is that the moment where you're like, oh, I can do something else? Or you'd had this moment with Carol, or you realize that there's a gaping hole that you can step in. Like, how do you, there's so many people that we talk to, especially young therapists. I just was at the combined section meeting for physical therapy, and I talked to so many young students who are like, hey, I'm in grad school and I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own my own thing, but those steps seem just insurmountable to people. How do you, where do you start? How did you go from thriving? I heard that in your story about your friend to, you're like leaving behind a dream, because Juliet and I both left like dream opportunities to do this. And our parents thought we were a little bit crazy.
Absolutely. And as did mine. And you got to crawl before you ball. Like that is, and I'm still crawling 10 years into this. I mean, I did not have, it was about a month after Christy passed. I was on a business trip in Los Angeles, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had this vision for this idea that we could really give back as an industry. I knew the gross margins of cosmetics. I knew that I was creating products all the time. And I also knew that there were gaps for people who were immune compromised. And I really just couldn't shake this idea of almost like do you remember Tom's shoes? like the Tom Shoes of Beauty. That was like the business plan that I wrote on my iPhone, which was not a sophisticated business plan. I mean, I was a product developer and makeup artist. That's what I was back then. And my advice for people is to just get started. I only knew how to do those things, and everything else I've had to learn through trial and error. And I have my PhD in what not to do. I've made so many mistakes, and that's just a part of the journey. What I will say, though, that really helped me was I worked a full-time job. I left L'Oreal and I worked for Bulletproof, which is where I met you. And when I originally met you guys, and I was so struck by you. Can I just have a moment for Juliet? I mean, I don't even know if you remember when we met. You probably don't, because you talked to 100 people that day. 1,000.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. But I was just getting started with Thrive. I remember telling Dave, who was so supportive of me, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I just want to disclose this as I'm joining. And he was so supportive of that. And I remember meeting you, and you were just so gracious with me. You gave me advice, you gave me encouragement, and you believed in me. And you were such a boss. Like, there are a lot of people who aren't as special as you who don't take the time, and you took the time. And I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so nice. Thank you so much. And I do remember meeting you. I was like, Pasadena, I remember. That's so cool. So thank you. That's like such an honor for you to say that. So what I'd love to know is, I know you self-funded Thrive, started in your apartment.
Yeah.
With a full-time job.
With another full-time job, which we're fans of. We did the same thing, by the way. That's one of the pieces of advice we give to entrepreneurs. We're like, don't quit your day job. Like, do this and
do your own order fulfillment.
I think it's an important filter. I'm like, you think you're motivated, work your full-time job and then build your side hustle.
Yeah.
After that. And let's see. I mean, our friend Matt says, you can always be building your next spaceship from inside your current spaceship. And, but I think that one thing where I'm like, are you really obsessed? Well, work your 9 to 5 and then go home and work your dream.
Yeah.
That way you can feed yourself and you don't have to make different decisions.
Yeah.
You really get to make a different set of decisions.
What was your first product? And I'll start there. What was your first product?
My first product was actually one of my most challenging to create, which was their false lashes that work for people whether they have their natural lashes or not. And that was accompanied by our Infinity Waterproof eyelash adhesive. So it was really important to me. I volunteered my time as a makeup artist before Thrive, and I would do makeup for people who were going through cancer. And I was sitting there teaching these mostly women how to use the makeup, and there were no false eyelashes that worked. And, when you go through chemo, you lose all your lashes often, or most of your lashes, and sometimes they never grow back. And so it was a really, really challenging project for me, and it took me years to create them. And I was ordering, lash fibers from different manufacturers that I knew. And I had eggs at one point that I was like putting the lashes on because I had all kinds of, I was working with ophthalmologists and oncologists, and that was the first product. And the Infinity Waterproof eyelash adhesive was actually just 2 ingredients. It was an acrylic copolymer and water, but it was actually the proprietary process in which I whipped them in my kitchen in the beginning.
I saw lessons in chemistry. I know how this works.
Yeah. And
I see you, Brie.
Yeah. But that was the first product, and it didn't take off. And I think that's like, it's so important for me to share that it took me years and years to have any sales besides like my friend who would order because they felt bad for me. You know what I mean? And it was years, and it was really those, I think what really helped me, and this was not a strategic move on my part, but when I created the lashes, I started donating them to individuals because I couldn't find, we have over 500 nonprofits we've worked with now. We just wrapped our impact committee, which is where nonprofits apply to receive our donations. And we had over 150 applicants, which is just like crazy. Like I started crying when I told the team when we were kicking it off, because we spent a half day doing it. And I said, team, like, you guys don't understand. Like, it was, not that many years ago, I was calling nonprofits or hospitals and they were telling me, we tell women with cancer not to wear makeup. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Like that's not okay for us to say as an industry. And so to be, busted.
And why would they say that? Because of the immune compromised nature and
the
the
ingredient.
Yeah, and the
quality,
increased sensitivity of to different ingredients. And so, that's why I partnered with oncologists to create the products, whether it was Infinity Waterproof Eyeliner, Infinity Waterproof Eyelash Adhesive. But to me, it was so important to create products that were for everybody, because just because somebody has gone through cancer doesn't mean they're any less of a person, right? Or domestic abuse or any of those things. I think actually they're resilience builders. And so I think that it's important that we meet. And by the way, nobody wants products that could potentially give them cancer. So let's just create clean products from the start. So that was very important to me.
So it seems to me that your company in particular is driven by two really big values. I mean, this first one you've talked about a little bit, and maybe could expound upon, but just the importance of quality ingredients. And so I would love for you to tell us a little bit about like how difficult it was to create and source those products and what that journey was like. And then also obviously your second giant value is giving back to the community, which I think is, again, still pretty unusual. And I'd love to just hear more about, how that works. And
10 years ago, do people even care what's in ingredients, or are they driven by other choices? I mean, I feel like you in so many ways in your category have really driven this conversation about, do you know what you're putting on your body?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be really clear and say, like, I stand on the shoulder of giants. Giants like Carol Hamilton or Leslie Blodgett, like so many incredible people who paved the way for me to have this opportunity, and to have this opportunity when I'm in my 20s. When I started, but I think on the note of clean products and where they were a decade ago. Do you remember gluten-free bread in the 90s?
No, I try not to.
Right. It was like cardboard.
Yeah.
So it was like you were sacrificing something if you wanted to make a choice, that might be healthier for you, or things like that.
Like the good mascara, the clean mascara, but it was like crap.
Yeah.
And so so you were sad.
Yeah.
You felt sort of good that you were using this clean product, but you're like, this doesn't look good.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it presented such an incredible opportunity. It's not just the clean aspect of it, but it's also the vegan aspect of our products. So I really believe if we're going to be totally cruelty free as a brand, to not use animal products in our products. And so there are, beeswax is a key driver of a lot of bases of formulas. Crushed beetle, which is it's carmine is we call it the inky, but it's like the ingredient term. That crushed beetle and carmine is what makes most reds, most purples. So you can imagine what's in a lot of beauty products that are out there. For me, it was this really cool opportunity to throw out the rule book and create something that might be science defying at the time. And I think for me, developing clean products and vegan products really allowed this new opportunity to create the liquid lash extensions mascara that is, that exists today within the Thrive Cosmetics portfolio, or bigger than beauty skincare being vegan, and Bright Balance cleanser, and how incredible that is. So I like that when you throw out the rule book of what's been done before, you really are going to create game-changing products that ultimately wind up, I think, performing better.
Have you found, as you've grown, which you've grown a lot, that it's been more difficult to source the products at the level of quality? I mean, it's one thing to like source all the ingredients you want and stir it up on your kitchen counter, but when you're having to get your products at scale, like, has that been a challenge? And or has that been even a challenge from like a profitability of your company standpoint? Like, where have the challenges been there in making sure that you continue this commitment to quality products?
Well, one of the advantages is that I own the company. And so we don't have to worry about what Wall Street is looking for in profitability. So yeah, our formulas are expensive to make. Donating money and products to charities is, some people would say, $135 million donated in products and funds. Like, that's...
Say that again.
$135
million.
Yeah.
Let's do a little
fist bump. I mean, but it's a fist bump to our community. Like, that's the thing is, like, I have to say, like, I wouldn't have gotten out of my apartment without our community. I am by most people's standards, a normal, I mean, I'm a little weird, but I grew up in a small town. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not an influencer. My first Instagram was Thrive's Instagram. My friend had to tell me it looked like a spam account because I didn't even have a profile picture. Like, it's like, and this community has really, like, they have helped build to that point, and they help us not only with funding us through purchasing our products. Our customers are our best investor, right? Like, they also help us find the nonprofits, because, like I was saying, 10 years ago, the idea of donating makeup and skincare was kind of crazy, and they've helped us find them through social media, through nominating them on our website and everything like that.
This episode of the Ready State podcast is brought to you by Element.
If you're living under a rock and you don't know what Element is, it's the most tasty way to add essential salts and minerals back to your drinking water. We have been on the Element tip for a minute, but we still are having people reach out. We had one of our professional cyclist friends, she's a professional mountain biker, gravel rider, reached out and was like, I have to meet these people. Like, this stuff has been such a net additive to my training. She's like, I need to figure out who these people are so I can work with them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been a lot of products that have come and go in the Starrett household.
We try a lot of things.
We try a lot of things. We have access to trying a lot of things. And one of the things that has been super constant is we're drinking Element every single day. And as we crest into spring and summer, it starts to become even more essential, especially for people who are doing a lot of exercising in warm weather or spending time outside. And my current favorite flavor is watermelon. Oh, I'm having a watermelon time right now.
Renaissance watermelon.
Yeah.
Renaissance.
What about you?
I still, one of the standards is orange. I never get tired of orange, but my go-to when I'm in the morning when I make that hot, because we're staring at my thermos over here, hot Element, it's lemon lime. I never get tired of it.
So good.
Look, if you want to figure out how Element can up your performance, up your life, do it.
And your joy.
That's right. Go to drinkelement.com/TRS and you'll get a free sample pack with all of Element's flavors.
This episode of the Ready State podcast is brought to you by Momentous. And the thing I'm excited about today is what we call my pre-workout stack. And those things are vital aminos and creatine.
So literally, everybody, I get up because I'm a great partner. I make Gillette coffee every day, unless I'm unconscious. Then you make me coffee sometimes. It's very nice.
Yes, thank you.
But part of my job is to make coffee. So I make coffee. Then you go off and a couple days a week, train with your teammates, your friends. I come out and there's just these piles of bags there, and they'll have to try to
And those 2 bags are always vital aminos and creatine.
And I think that's such a great way for you to start your training, is that you're covered sort of some aminos basis. You don't like to eat. You've never liked to eat before exercise. This means that you're not, sort of robbing from your musculature to work out, and you're not going to sort of go against. You do some especially the days when you're doing some heavy resistance training, and then you put the creatine in there. You've been really consistent with this. I'm really proud, because I was like, essential aminos are the dog's bollocks, and you were like, I don't know, and then you got into it.
I'm so into it, and I feel like it's the perfect compromise, because like you said, I do not love eating, especially not before like a lifting or CrossFit kind of session and early in the morning. I just do not want to. I have no desire to eat a full meal, and I don't feel good when I train if I have, and I don't have enough time to digest. Yeah. But I really have noticed a difference in my training and sort of my response to training by being consistent with this little pre-workout stack. And I think the other secret thing is I chug that cocktail in a giant glass of water. So unlike the olden days when I would just show up for my workout
like a dried sponge,
having had only coffee before my workout, I feel like it has this extra side added benefit of adding a little hydration.
You come. I think it also is nice is that you come home, you have your collagen after you've trained. So your system's
away from my caffeine.
Away from your caffeine.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that that's super clever. And I'm like, I probably should do that more.
Yeah. So highly recommend pre-workout stack, creatine plus vital aminos.
Yeah. Especially if I don't know if I like to eat a piece of peanut butter toast in the morning. You don't for some reason.
No.
But this is the game changer. Look, if you want to go find out more for yourself, go to livemomentous.com/TRS and use code TRS for a massive 20% off your first purchase. Your first sort of solution is a problem that you're seeing. in a community that you're already working with. That and even if it's not the wildfire success you think, you have this, you now have a roadmap. You sort of like, okay, I can see how this works. How do you think about where your next play is? Because you really it's this ongoing idea where, we started making free content to support our business. We didn't see it as a business. And then it opened the next idea. And then that opened the next idea.
Yeah.
And we just kind of keep jumping through hoops of things we're trying to solve. How do you pivot? Because this thing isn't like wildfire necessarily, per your words. Where is your next sort of thinking? And you're like, oh, maybe I have something here. You didn't get the immediate feedback that like you were going to be wild and successful and have this J-hook company. I mean,
not at all.
Talk about that next piece.
Yeah. Of building the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I developed what I believe is one of the most game-changing eyeliners. So the next product, and this is when I'm still a sole proprietor in my apartment, working my full-time job, I developed Infinity Waterproof Eyeliner. And this product it's incredible because I was inspired by microblading, which is basically a semi-permanent tattoo on the skin that people do for their brows or they do eyeliner. And I took those pigments and I put them into an eyeliner. So when applied topically, they're really effective for not only being waterproof, but smudge proof and sweat proof and Kelly Starrett proof, I'm just going to say. And so it was, for me, I developed this game-changing formula and I thought I was going to have an investor and then it fell out. Like I didn't know anything about that world. And so I wiped out my personal, so I had put in like 10 grand at the Thrive Bank account and then it was 15 and then it was 20. And it was just like, I had my paycheck coming in, but I was working for a startup. I wasn't making a ton of, I made the most money I made before Thrive was $70,000 a year, which I thought I was like balling.
You were killing it.
Yeah. And I, and that was how I funded the company. And ultimately I wound up wiping out my personal bank account to fund Infinity Waterproof Eyeliner. And one of the things I wanted to come back to the question you asked about, is it hard to develop clean products or source ingredients? That is my jam. Like that's my background. So it's actually not challenging for us. And we own all of our formulas, very proudly own our formulas. We're not just slapping a label on something and calling it our own. We develop from scratch. And so that has not been a challenge. And I am obsessed with product quality. I'm always thinking about how we can improve. But coming back to how we ultimately grew, I produced those 25,000 units of Infinity Waterproof Eyeliner without an investor in my apartment. I hand packed the pencils into the cartons and had really nice friends and family who helped me with that because 25,000 is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot when you think about like the size and those little boxes they come in.
But Amazon isn't Amazon yet. Like, how are you? I mean, you're like, great.
We're still not on Amazon.
Now you're sleeping on like a bed of
Infinity Waterproof eyeliner.
Yeah. Oh,
in your apartment.
Yeah, literally sleeping on it. Yeah, listening to Notorious B.I.G. It was all a dream. Thinking it's gonna happen, and it just was. The reason why I like telling the story of Infinity Waterproof Eyeliner is because it didn't take off for a year and a half. It just sat there in my closet. Really, it was really depressing. It was overflowing from my closet. And we were doing about $150 a day in sales. Like if we did 500, it was because we were on TV or something. And it was really our community who made us go viral in November of 2016.
And like, what was that? Like, what was that moment? Was it like a single post by someone?
Tell us how.
Yeah, I will never forget it because I was booking one-way tickets to go sit outside of retailers, kind of like I was just like sitting out there almost like a stalker waiting for the buyer to let me in, and they wouldn't. And so I got really sad about that and simultaneously really fired up about our first ever domestic abuse giving event. It was in Van Nuys, California. Shout out to Strength United. This woman, Paige, who was a makeup artist, said, Carissa, would you ever do a giving event for people who've experienced domestic violence? And I said, absolutely. And so I showed up. I wasn't allowed to say I was there. It looked like a jail, because they're really serious situations. So, you can't even say that you're there. And, I went and I was at a table like this and I was teaching makeup to these women, and we didn't even speak the same language. None of them were English speaking, and I got to teach them how to really just through the connection and the power of how makeup will connect us. And it never fails at a Thrive Cosmetics giving event, which is a big part of how we donate, which is basically a party where we're teaching you how to do your makeup and skincare. They're all, kind of looking at their feed and they're nervous and not really talking to one another. And by the end, they were all laughing. They're taking selfies. They're like, and this woman came up and she grabbed my arm and she said, and this was a woman who didn't speak English as her first language. She said, "God bless you for what you do." And I had to like catch my breath as I was like, wow. And I had just shown up with a suitcase that day, like I was staying in a motel. It was like, it was not I was not living
glam life.
Yeah,
the
no,
glam
no,
life, no,
not at all. And I remember going back to LAX and I was like, how am I going to make this business take off? How am I going to make that? And I was so mad. Like I was just like this, I gotta make it happen. And I have a little chip on my shoulder. So I sat down and I just like got really obsessed with how am I going to communicate the value of this product. And I made an ad on my iPhone and I published it before I took off. And I had made a lot of ads and I thought Facebook or Instagram was a place where you lost money. Like I was just like, I didn't know what direct to consumer was, but I could not get carried at retail. So I think it was the convergence of the cause, the scarcity of absolutely no sales, no line of sight for a retailer. And I just got really, really hungry. And I thought about all the ways in which I hadn't communicated about the eyeliner of what made it different. And I think the visual with the copy that I put out there, plus what really drove it was the community. We had it, I landed and all of a sudden we had all these people commenting and I was like, what is happening? So I just started commenting back to them and they were talking about how it was the best eyeliner they had ever used. And maybe it was 50 women, but then those 50 women were tagging their friends and it created this viral loop. And I really like to tell that story because we were not a brand. We had been on the faces of celebrities. We had those major TV moments before that, but that's not what built Thrive Cosmetics. It was the community that did. They made us go viral, and we went from $500 a day in sales to $1,000 to $5,000 to over $100,000 a day in sales in 1 week. 1 week.
What did you do
your
about?
house.
I'm starting to have anxiety on your behalf in the past for like, okay, so you had your 25,000 units, like you must have sold out of those pretty quickly. Like, what did you then do?
I put the website on pre-order, and every direct-to-consumer expert, it's like, don't listen. I mean, what are these experts? You know what I mean? It's like, no, like nobody's, I mean, well, you guys are experts in what you do actually, so I shouldn't say that, but they're like, these everybody was like, you're crazy. Like, nobody's going to prepay for an eyeliner that's going to come in 3 months. It was February 10th, 2017. They came back in stock and we had over 40,000 pre-orders, and that funded the business.
40,000.
And so I'm sorry, just as someone who does get sometimes sad, and everybody in this room does a lot of ads for Facebook. Like what was that ad?
I can show you.
I can
we'll
show
link
you
to
it in the show notes for sure, so people can see it. But I mean, what do you think was different about it? Like, was it personal? Could people?
It was a real person using our eyeliner. It wasn't a glossy, beautiful image. And I think though, it was the product actually worked. Like this product stayed on your the waterline is this area right here before your lashes. And it really stayed on. And I think demonstrating that was the power of that product. So, that product taking off. But, I think if the community hadn't been there, it wouldn't have taken off. And that's what I always come back to, because they were helping to substantiate this claim of the eyeliner really working.
The story is bananas, and I love it. There's a little bit of a gap that you could fill in for me between suddenly I'm picturing your apartment on a time lapse, just like suddenly like a wave is going out and there's like a bed and a kitchen and closet space, and like you're taking a breath, but you've just inherited another set of problems. And that problem is, okay, where do I put 40,000 of these things? Where's my storage? How do I do fulfillment? Who guides you in those conversations? You suddenly need help. Like it's one thing to do it yourself.
You need an employee.
And maybe you have a loved one who's helping you.
We didn't have employees at that time either.
That's right. So how do you, because I think a lot of times people will get a little idea and then they're overwhelmed by the next step.
Yeah.
Like
And
the growth step.
yeah, and I still get overwhelmed. I mean, I think I did not sleep, and I'm not advocating for this. I wear my Oura ring, and I liked getting in the 90s, my sleep score, and I believe in the blue blockers and all that stuff.
Did you just flex a 90 sleep score?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
94 today.
Lisa's
my
like,
friend. 94.
Wow.
94.
Wow, that's incredible.
Thank you.
No, I mean,
87, all y'all can go away.
no, I mean, it was, what happened next was I got a small space that was 1 block from our office because it was cheap. I think rent was $2,600 or $3,200 a month. And I could finally afford that because we had all these pre-orders and I had the cash
Do you
flow
have a
to
sign?
do it. What?
Did you have a sign? Did you have like, is a space? Like, what's it look like in there?
So the
Card tables?
the sign, yeah, it was card tables. I mean, this is really nice. Like the fulfillment setup you all have is really, really nice. We had plastic tables that we just set out. We were using ShipStation, and they were those label printers, those Dymo label printers, which I will not let the team throw out. So the team, you need to know, team, this is why we don't throw them out, because they're going to be a part of
the
history.
history. Yeah, the history.
They were smoking. They were literally smoking and overheating. But I remember thinking, I listened to Nicki. I love music, and I listened to Nicki Minaj. Do you know Nicki Minaj?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Moment for Life. And I
You're
finally
like the Ari Melber of cosmetics right now. It's dropping all the rap. I love it.
No, but this song, I finally understood what that song was about, and it was like, I want to have this feeling for my whole life. Like, I struggled for over 3 years to get to this point. I'm never going to complain. And by the way, I'm literally printing money right now because every label I'm printing is money for funding this business. So I would stay up till 2 a.m. printing labels. I'm simultaneously on with the manufacturer. Hey, we got to get this done. And they thought I was crazy. And they knew I was crazy, actually, because I was like, hey, because I'm very tenacious if I want something done. So I was calling them multiple times a day. And to try and compress the timeline with Germans, which is not how that works. And so it was really, really challenging, but you just kind of figure it out along the way. I mean, my dad who had been an educator, had recently retired. I was like, Dad, you're doing order fulfillment. He's like, great, cool. So, and we had temps, we had different people. It was actually really cool. My friend Christy was in a sorority when we went to University of Washington. So we had some of her sorority sisters that I was paying via PayPal at the time. I was like, hey, just honor system, keep track of your hours on an iPhone note and submit them. And so that was how we did it. And it was really, really challenging. It still is. But it's been the greatest journey of my life. Like, how could I ever complain? Like, it's so like, I think that entrepreneurs, it's really easy to get negative, because you go through lawsuits, you go through a lot of, people, all kinds of challenges as building a business. But those, just like the people who have experienced cancer and domestic abuse and being unhoused, like those can be resilience builders if we can get the perspective. And that's where community has been so powerful for me, having friends who don't care if I'm up or down or what has happened. But at the end of the day, like, even on my worst days, I get to sit there and think, I get to make makeup for a living. I get to make skincare for a living. Like, that's fun.
I don't think I get to stretch for a living, but
yeah.
maybe I'll get
Yeah. So my guess is you would say that you're not good at this, but my impression from the outside is that you are an epically good brand builder and community builder. And again, I mentioned it early on that, like, your Instagram is so fun to follow because, you're just everywhere and interacting with so many people and so positive and making such a big impact on people. But I mean, would you count that as like one of the many learned skills of entrepreneurship? Like, was that natural for you? Because obviously you're a positive, enthusiastic person.
Yeah.
Which I think lends itself to, some of the fun and joy that's, just simply on your social media. But was that like one of those many skills that you have to just sort of like, okay, well, I have no idea how to do this. I have no idea how to build a brand and a community, but I'm just going to, learn how to do it.
That's such a good question. I have, as you're asking that question, I'm thinking of my childhood and how I was always the kid that was getting people together, and I always had a really diverse group of friends. And so the idea of community was so core to my survival as a human. And I did not know how weird it is for other people to observe me walking up to people in an airport, passing out bigger than beauty skincare product samples. I didn't know that actually. That's just kind of innate in me. And I love people. I'll get back to that story. We were in Las Vegas and we were on our way over Super Bowl weekend. This is how uncool I am. I didn't know that it was Super Bowl weekend when we agreed to go do makeup for the homeless community down in Vegas. So I had no idea how wild Vegas could be.
I saw you. I thought you were going to the Super Bowl.
No, I was not. I was there. We went there to go do makeup and feed the homeless with Beauty to the Streets. Shirley Raines, amazing person we've been working with since 2018. And we went there to go to a Kelly Clarkson concert afterwards, just like celebrate with all the volunteers. Yeah, it was incredible. But I was with some new team members and I was passing out products, and all of a sudden they started filming me. I was like, what are you all doing? And I was like, come join with me. And they're like, Carissa, you're so brave. And I was like, we're passing out products. Aren't you proud to talk about these products? So I didn't know that was weird. I think that there's been a lot of entrepreneurship that has been hard for me, but building a community is not one of them. I am not a social media expert. I think why my social media, if it resonates with anyone, it's because I'm myself and I'm quite unhinged on there. I didn't know it was weird to dance or sing on social media. I'm not a professional singer. I hope that gives people permission to be their authentic selves, because I am only allergic to two things. One is vancomycin. Two is bullshit. It's actually on my medical. I had my doctor update my medical records, and we get one life, I think. And I don't want to live a life of fake anything. I like being around grounded, amazing people like you, which is why I'm so thankful to be with you today.
It's so awesome. Okay. So I want to move on to talking a little bit about since I know you're always in the ready state. Your health practices. But before I do, I just want to sort of put an exclamation point on how awesome and gigantic your business has become, and I don't know what you want to share or willing to share from a data perspective, but how much you've grown, what your sales are, how many customers you have, and then just sort of reiterate again how much you have donated to charities.
Juliet and I we have a couple other friends who've created incredible businesses, and we're like, oh, what are we doing? We chose the wrong lane. We needed to get clearly we couldn't do any of this, but
I think
there's a category of businesses where holy hell, these people are on fire, and it's so fun.
Your business is a holy hell, wow.
And I want to say, we've said this before. We were listening to an interview where Jay-Z, I think, was being interviewed by Oprah, and she said, how do you handle the conversation was about, young people getting hot or successful or popular. And he's like, no. Just so you know that when people get hot, they get hot, but that's not the same thing as excellence. And excellence is doing something at a really high level for a long time. And someone gets hot, and it's been really fun to watch you get hot and become excellent.
Thank you so much. I mean, thank you. I feel the same way I did when we were a $15 million business, $30 million business. I feel the same as when I was showing up. I actually just got to go do a giving event in Hawaii. I was over there on vacation, and I got to walk in with that same suitcase that I've always walked in with. And now we ship millions of products every single year. And to me, it's so about the it's about the day to day. The magic is not in the cover of the New York Times or what. It's not about that stuff. It's about the getting to go and be with people and share space with people and connect. And I think
that's true.
Yeah, I think it's being in the lab creating products. It's being with the team creating products and saying, is this excellent? Because if you wouldn't buy this over all the thousands of lipsticks that are out there, then we don't need to make that lipstick, because this business was not built on 100 SKUs. It was built on one. And so to me, I love the idea of being around an exceptional team of people who want to, we really believe iron sharpens iron at Thrive Cosmetics. And that one of our values, we have 3 values, and one of them is do it with purpose or don't do it at all. That's how we think about products. That's how we think about charity. That's how we think about how we show up every day. And to me, I love that this business is constantly kicking my butt, because I'm never good enough in my job. And I love that. I'm never finished. And it would be so disappointing to not continue to grow. So to me, the idea of continuing to be challenged in this business, because even though you're like being really kind, I'm thinking of 100 things that I need to fix.
I'm sure.
You know, and the cosmetics industry, one of the things that I do really appreciate is I got into this through passion. You know, it was a passion for the industry, and growing up in a small town where there wasn't a lot of access to luxury beauty products, and really trying to solve problems like we were talking about earlier. But it's on its way to being $1 trillion industry. So I picked a good one. I didn't know. And so I really encourage people to strive for excellence in whatever they are passionate about, because to me, like, you can do charity in so many different ways. You can build businesses in so many different ways. And to me, I don't want to be creating something if it's not excellent and game changing.
I love that. And seriously, kudos to you. You've been slaying so hard, and you know, the fact that you have contributed such a massive amount of money to charity. I mean, as I listen to you talk, I think, like, why doesn't every business do that? Like, think about all the other big, huge businesses out there that could make an impact that way. So seriously, like, kudos to you. Before we end this, I'd like to just spend a little time, because I think the way that we connected was through, like, our joint interest in health and taking care of our bodies. And I think one of the challenges for people who aren't in our industry, the health and fitness industry, is they see all these health and fitness people who have endless amounts of time because it's part of their profession to sort of take care of their health and wellness. But you're not one of those people. You are running a company that's totally outside the health and wellness industry.
How many members are your staff?
75.
You have
75 staff.
Yeah.
I see from your Instagram that you do a ton of travel. You're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to know, you know, how do you fit in taking care of your body into your crazy life?
Yeah.
And to the extent that we all have to choose what to prioritize, and we have to choose what to throw in the trash because of whatever's going on in our lives, like, what are the things that are sort of like, you know, non-negotiables for you in terms of how you take care of your health? And
Usually
what are the things
CEO and jacked don't go in the same sentence.
So like, what's, you know, like, what are you doing? Like, what's a day in the life like, and what are the things
How do you
that
think
are the
about this
most
problem?
and how do you think about it?
You know, I love that question, and I want to back up a little bit, because when I told that story about how the business took off, the only way I could celebrate was through eating, because I had no time. So I actually got pretty out of shape. So it was 20. I mean,
it's a pendulum. It swings both directions.
Yeah.
Whoa. Like, oh my gosh, you know?
Yeah, but I want to share that, because I think that first of all, I'm not an expert like you all, but it's a normal in the entrepreneurial journey to go, when you're through a big growth spurt in the business, things can fall behind. And I got really unhealthy. Like, I struggled to walk up the stairs, and I was young. I was in my 20s. And I was about to turn 30, and I just remember sitting there being like, is this what my life is going to be?
Yes, it is.
Like,
congratulations.
Yeah. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. And so I applied that same, like, well, why does it have to be this way mentality to my health and fitness. And so for me, I found a way to integrate it into my life. For example, I wear tennis shoes to the office every day. I love your message about the movement snacks. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I have integrated it into my daily life. I cannot leave my room without doing the morning hip spin up, because, and I don't sleep with my, this is an iconic video. Shout out to Mags. No, I can't leave my room, and I can't look at my phone if I'm gonna, I have a work phone, and then I have basically an iPod. That's where the morning hip spin up lives. And so I have to have really, really good boundaries. And again, shout out to authors like Practice of Groundedness, Brad Stolberg. Like, that book is so core, and it just has the fundamentals of wellness and living a high performance life. And so I have to come back to that all the time.
Let me interrupt just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that when you started to create a space for eating food again, right, and moving your body?
Not eggs Benedict and beignets for breakfast, and wondering why I couldn't think.
Less.
Yeah.
Did you start to notice that you actually could work harder,
Yes.
show up better? I
Yes.
think that's where the disconnect is, because
Yes.
we're willing to do anything for this thing, this baby
Yeah.
out in the
Yeah.
world.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to
Yep.
to say no to
Yep.
friends and other experiences to do your own business.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a moment where your performance is degrading massively because you haven't slept, and how you're self-soothing and you're not eating. And you realize that when you start to put those dots together in basics, you don't have to run a half marathon, but
No.
you literally, it starts to get better. You can work
Yes.
harder and show up and be
Yeah.
a better partner.
Yes. And that's that. I love that question, because I have a few non-negotiables, and it's like, I move every single day. It can be a walk. It can be a run, it can be a jog, it can be a cycling class, it can be lifting weights, something, but I am moving every single day. And that I do for my mind. When I was doing it for vanity, and there was more of an unhealthy mental game that was happening, that didn't motivate me. What motivated me was being a better CEO for our team, being a better leader for our community. That really motivated me. And then, I'm proud to say, through my own, therapy and working on my mental health, it became for me. It became for the younger version of me. It became for the current me and the future Carissa that I wanted to take care of. And so for me, it's just a non-negotiable to move my body. And it can be 20 minutes, it can be an hour.
You cannot cheat your physiology. And if you're going to go and do this a long time, and it's a long time, then you really have to start to do the basics.
Yeah. And eating healthy, to me, it's like, I'm always a work in progress. I tend to get addicted to certain protein bars right now.
What's your current?
So I've tapered. I'm not addicted anymore, but Aloha bars. Have you had the chocolate peanut butter Aloha bars?
I don't know if I've had chocolate peanut butter, but I have had an Aloha bar, and it's good.
Yes.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Yes.
So this was maybe in like 2011. And just, on the same theme that it's like, it's hard, and we also have moments when we're maxed out and busy where, we kind of fall off the wagon a little bit. But there was a moment in 2011 where Kelly and I actually had like a sit down conversation as a couple where we were like, we're addicted to protein bars because our kids we were like growing our business. Our kids were little. And
I was just stoked I remembered to bring one.
Yeah, we were eating like, it was almost like we were following the Slim Fast diet, because we were both eating coffee and a protein bar for breakfast, and then a protein bar for lunch and a sensible dinner.
Yeah, that's right.
And we had to like stage an intervention on ourselves because we were like, wait, this is no way to live. Like, we're literally both eating 2 protein bars a day and dinner.
Yeah.
So we're right there with you.
No, absolutely. But that's what I love about your message is you're talking, the way that you break it down in simple bite-sized ways, no pun intended, to like make it simple for us. Like, I'm so grateful for the content that you put out there, because I'm not an expert like you, but I am someone who really cares about high performance and excellence. And so having tools where I can say, oh, okay, it's not, I don't have to overcomplicate it. I can just have a salad and have some protein and call it a day. And it can be really intimidating when you're first getting started. And there's so much crap out there, and you guys don't put crap out there. You don't put crap out there. And I appreciate that. So for me, it's really about movement, and I'm still working on my sleep, if I'm being honest, but that's
a game.
Yeah,
you'll
you're
play the rest of
traveling
your
a
life.
lot. You're traveling. It's hard.
Let me ask you. If you have to go back in time, it's not what do you tell your young friend, your young self, but what question do you ask that person? What would you ask the young Carissa?
What is one thing you can do a day to build community for yourself? Not for the business, but for yourself. I was really lonely. And it was somewhat self-inflicted, because I didn't realize how many people in my life really wanted to just love me. And I was so obsessed with what I was building and so called by what I was doing at Thrive Cosmetics that I didn't make time for friendship. and they were there all along.
I love that. So I have 2 final questions for you. And the first one, I'll just start with the first one. What are you most proud of?
I am so proud of our team and the products that they create and the passion that they put into what they do every day, the way they care for our customers. I'm so proud of our giving partners. I mean, I think about Cheryl, who started Find Your Fabulosity out of her home and is just celebrating that she's donated 100,000 lipsticks. And we're a big part of that. And that's because of our team. That's because of our community. And I think I'm proud that we are people who challenge the status quo and do things differently.
Okay, and then my last question, and I'm going to tell you a quick story first, is we were given this thing as a gift. It's called a delve deck, and it sits on our dining room table. And I'll be honest, when it was given to us, we kind of made fun of it. Basically, it's these little cards that are like conversation starters. We leave it at the dinner table, and we talk amongst ourselves, but then we like to do 1 or 2 of the delve deck cards because it actually has turned out to be really fun because we're
What's the grossest thing you've ever stepped in?
Yeah,
As a question.
Just that kind
and
of
then there are
stuff.
some that are a
But
little bit more existential.
One of the most fun ones that we
Cow
had
poop.
around the table, we
you weren't
actually
asking.
were lucky enough. We had like a dinner party, so we had maybe 7 or 8 people at the table. But the question that was asked that was really fun was if you had one superpower.
A useless superpower.
And sorry, a useless superpower, what would it be?
A useless...
And like, do you remember what yours was?
Talk to squirrels.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like a useless,
I don't
but
think
like
that's
fun.
useless. I don't think... Oh, I would love to talk to dogs.
That's not, so that, I don't know, maybe too useful. Caroline was like, I want a wind that would just come and Beyonce
No, that
my
was
hair.
mine.
That was your,
me. So
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of Beyonce concerts and I'm
Yeah.
always like, she's so beautiful. But
Yep.
everywhere no matter where she is on stage, there's wind.
Yeah.
And so her hair is like a halo around,
Yes.
halo around her head.
Yes.
But, so I was like, wherever I go, like wind would be hitting me. So I would have like
Can you
halo
think-
hair.
can you
So I
think
don't know.
Yes.
Like, can
of
you
a
think of
super-
something?
A useless superpower. Okay. Gosh, as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, I would love to just magically be able to remove my makeup without trying
that's
at
really
all.
good.
But I
That's
feel like
legit.
that's
You mean
so
your
useful.
pillowcase? It
No,
doesn't
that's
just,
good.
just come
Useful.
off on your pillowcase?
No. I mean, no, I'm trying. I mean, this is such a good question, though. I mean, I think, oh, man.
Be prepared, everyone. It's coming.
Be prepared. Useless superpower.
Useless superpower.
You keep thinking on that. So while you are thinking of your useless superpower in the short term, please tell everyone where they can find you on all the socials, and then also where they can learn about and buy your amazing products, of which I am a fan. I know Lisa from my team is also a fan. And then where people can learn about all the amazing charitable giving and donations you guys are doing.
That is very simple. It's all at thrivecosmetics.com. So we're sold exclusively, both brands, Bigger Than Beauty Skincare as well as Thrive Cosmetics. They have the same giving mission, so the same causes and charities that we're supporting. It's all housed on thrivecosmetics.com. It's where you can buy our products. If you want to see an unhinged person on social media, you can find me at...
No, not true. So fun.
Carissa Bodner is where I'm at, and it's Karissa Bodnar, and Thrive Cosmetics.
Yes,
So-
CAUSE Cosmetics,
yes,
which is such a great name, by the way.
CAUSE, yes, because we are for a cause. So we're Thrive Cosmetics on all the socials. So but my useless, I'm coming back to, I'm inspired by Kelly. It's talking to animals, like talking to horses. I would love
You talk to one animal. So one style. So just talking to horses?
No, dogs. I have 2
You
dogs.
dogs.
I have 2 rescue dogs, Cody and Cooper. I want to know everything. I want to know their whole history.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that because sometimes our dog is just standing there and we're like, I wonder what he's thinking. Like, it'd be great to talk to him and be like, what's going on?
Yes.
So anyway, Carissa, thank you so much for being here, and so fun to have you in person.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're just such fans. Keep slaying and fighting the good fight. It's so awesome to watch your
Stay
journey.
hot and excellent.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for listening to the Ready State Podcast. If you like what you're hearing, check out all our episodes here or at thereadystate.com. And be sure to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes to help others find our show.
Check us out and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Ready State.
Until next time, cheers, everyone.
You've got